You learned chapter 32 or all 32 chapters? Just chapter 32. That's very hard to do. You got that, you got everything. Lev means the heart. 32 is the heart. The numerical value is the word for the heart. So it's chapter 32 is called the heart of the Tanya. And it says in the Talmud that Hashem wants a good heart. So if you can give Hashem your heart, you're doing great. Ariel.
Good morning.
Hannah. Kovtulenko. Liba Rivka.
Good morning.
Malka Lavana. Good morning, Malka. That's it for now. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were gonna keep the hat on.
Does it make a difference? Teal, you like it on?
Rabbi, here's the thing. The hat doesn't make the rabbi. The rabbi makes the hat.
The hat maker makes the hat. The
Oh,
Tzemach,
but Hashem makes the hat.
the Tzemach Tzedek, no, the Tzemach Tzedek used to say, I'm like a hat maker. A hat maker has a store full of hats. A person comes in and buys one of Malka. A person comes in and buys one of the hats. When you buy a hat, the hat maker says, you know, I had you in mind when I made that hat. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, people come to a Farbrengen, and different people all think I'm talking to them. Why? Because I'm like a hat maker. I make hats. If the hat fits, I had you in mind. I'm going to have to leave a little bit early today. I apologize, but we have a simcha in the family.
Ooh, the bris.
My son, yes, my son had a son.
Hi. I was wondering why you were wearing a kapata. I knew it was a special
Oh,
day.
wait, the one that was born on your birthday.
What? Yeah, that's right.
Did you birthday?
No,
Oh.
if it was born on his birthday.
Okay,
it's his
I
birthday.
understand. City Center. I just kind of said,
Give us a duck to give.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That means that his bris is going to be on the same day as my own.
Oh, I guess that's what happens when you guys are born on the same day. You know, like God willing, if you're born on the same day.
God
then
willing,
we'll
that's
still
right.
be
If
on the
there's
same day.
sometimes the bris has to be pushed off.
Exactly.
My first son, when my first son
Wait,
was
where's the bris
born.
gonna be? Oh, it's the bris house. that you're
No,
talking
no,
about.
no, no, no.
Oh,
No, the bris is
fancy.
in 770 upstairs
Oh,
at 10:30. And then the Suda is next door at 8:45. Not 8:45 on the clock, 8:45 Eastern Parkway.
And you're still here teaching your class.
Well,
That's dedication.
well, we're going to dedicate this class to the to the new the Rahanim.
Is this the reason that
You'll
Chabad
have to
doesn't
tell
trim their
us his name
beards?
tomorrow.
What?
Is this why Chabad doesn't trim their beard? It's like a built-in fidget toy on your face.
No, I don't because I see here like a mirror. You see.
Ah,
And I
that's a
just
scary
see
sight.
that. So when I'm at home, my wife always tells me straighten your beard. So I'm looking. I see. I have to do it. It shouldn't look wild.
Rabbi Pape, you gotta tell us the name of the baby tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now I don't know.
Well,
Today is called.
Well, yeah, the verse.
He's just called Tinoi Kalevi.
Wait, you were telling us a story about your first son?
Yeah, the first son was yellow.
Oh.
yeah, John.
Very often children get jaundice, and there's a count. They measure the degree of the jaundice by what's called a Billy Rubin count. I thought Billy Rubin was a baseball player. But anyway, the Billy Rubin count was very high, it was like 16. And they said, you can't do a bris because the the blood doesn't coagulate when they have jaundice, so they can bleed. My mother told me, Aleyha Shalom, she told me that she had two older brothers in her family, both of whom bled to death after the bris, because the moil wasn't careful about the yellow.
No,
Well,
oh my gosh.
Right, but that was in, some small village in Poland. And here in America, the moilim are more careful about it. So there was a new moil in town at that time. You know Rabbi Barris. Well, his father was the moil of choice at that time. However, I couldn't go to him because the baby was yellow, so I didn't speak to him about making the bris. There was no possibility. And then suddenly on the 8th day, the hospital called and said, the count just went down. And once it starts to go down, it keeps going down. You can come to the hospital and take your baby home, and you can make a bris today. In those days, you see, if a woman had a baby, she could stay in the hospital for like 8 days, 8 days. It was a luxury for the mother to be able to recover. Nowadays, they send the mother home after 1 day if they can. And that's why my daughter-in-law got sent home after 1 day. So her husband took her to what's called Kimpitorum. Kimpitorum means that's a place where the woman can rest after she has a baby, and they take care of her. Okay, so I had to bring the baby home in the morning of the 8th day. Now I didn't know what to do because I hadn't contacted Rabbi Barris, and he lives in Long Island. I couldn't contact him, and I didn't know. There was a new person in town called Rabbi Shane. He was new. Nobody knew too much about him, but I figured, look, he's living in our community. I should support him. So I went and I spoke to him in the first place that maybe he would do the bris on the 8th day, but then I had to tell him, no, the bris is pushed off because the baby's yellow. He said, okay. So then I went looking for him to come and make the bris, and he wasn't there. He was out. His partner in the store, he had a store, and the partner wasn't available. The partner said he doesn't know where he is. And we didn't have cell phones in those days. There was no way of contact. We made to make a phone call. You went to a phone, you put in a quarter, and you made your phone call. Antique from the old days, the olden days. So there was nowhere around. And so now I didn't know what to do. Should I call Rabbi Barris and ask him to come? I had already spoken to Rabbi Shane, or was that unethical? That was a question. So I went to the Rav and I asked him if I spoke to a moyel about doing the bris, and the bris was pushed off because the baby's yellow. And now the baby is well and he can have, the doctor says he can make the bris, and the moyel cannot be found. Can I get another moyel? Or is that unethical? So the rabbi asked me a question. He said, could you have made the bris yesterday? I said, no. He said, why? I said, because it would have been dangerous, because the baby had a very high jaundice count. So the rabbi said, now listen carefully, girls, because someday in Mitzvah Hashem, you'll have a family, and you never know, it could occur in any family. So you should know this is the psak. When the moil arrives, he said, number one, you don't call another moil. You spoke to this moil, you stick with him. Number two, when he arrives and tells you you can make the bris now, you tell him come back in 7 days. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the moil arrived. He looked at the baby and said, you look good. Let's make the bris. I said, I'll see you in 7 days. He was livid, furious. I said, I'm the moil. I'm telling you to make the bris. I said, the Rav told me, when you say those words, I tell you come back in 7 days. I said, but I'm the moil. I said, but I spoke to the Rav. You weren't around. If you'd been around, you could have made the bris. I would have listened to you. But now I have to listen to the Rav. And so 7 days later, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4:30, we made the bris. And the Rebbe, that is the Rebbe's approach. What the Rav said, that's the Rebbe's approach, because we want to be very careful with jaundice not to endanger the life of the child. There you are, girls. Put that in your back burner. You never know when it might come in handy.
Wait, I have a question. Why from the point that the Moyle said you can do it now 7 days later?
Wait 7 days, because that's another law in Shulchan Aruch. If a person is in danger of his life and you have to do something, you wait 7 days. You know, unless if you don't do it right away, he could die. That's called Pikuach Nefesh. It's not Pikuach Nefesh. It's a question, can I safely do this operation? It's an operation. It's an operation on a young child, a newborn child. So you have to wait till the child is strong and healthy. How do you know if the child is strong and healthy? You wait 7 days.
And also, why would it be unethical to ask if the original one wasn't around? Why is it unethical to ask someone to do it?
Because I asked him, just he's not around. He'll show up. Eventually, he'll find out, and he did, and he came right away as soon as he found out. So how would it have seemed if he came running to do the bris as arranged beforehand? I said, oh well, Rabbi, we got somebody else in the meantime. That's not nice. Okay, Chama, I marked you present because I saw you in and you left. And Sarah Abigail is here. Okay, that's it. So I'm gonna have to leave in a few minutes now. That was our class.
So let's just for Brian until the end of class.
No, we're not gonna just for bringing to the end of class. I know you like, I see you're up for bringing creature.
Look, here's the thing. I've
You
had
love
Rabbi
for
Pape
bringings.
the entire year. He's all about going to the text for about 5 minutes, then for bringing to the other.
What?
What? That's what he loves. I actually couldn't stand it at the beginning. I know if it's okay.
Okay, so we said yesterday that we're talking about a person who has a complaint that he doesn't feel anything. He learns Hasidus, he gets very excited about the idea of serving the Eibishter, but when he comes to daven, he's cold. Okay, you want to forbring, so I'll tell you another story about this.
Yes. Come through.
That I was very friendly with a family in England when I met Lubavitch by the name of Glick. And Mrs. Glick told me this story, that her husband, she was a survivor of the war. Her husband escaped from Vienna before the war, and they went to England, and he grew up in England after that and fought with the Jewish brigade of the English army in World War II. And then afterwards, he devoted in the post-war year, 2 years or so, he devoted himself to helping Jewish people who had survived, to get them paper. They were stateless, homeless, and they had no papers and no country wanted them. And he worked to try and help them get established, help people like that get established. And finally, he got married to Mrs. Glick and opened a little business because he was an engineer. And he made lampshades, collapsible lampshades, and that became his business and so on. And because of the difficulties of keeping religion during the war, he didn't keep kosher, and then he didn't keep Shabbos, and then he got depressed about it, and he sort of left Yiddishkeit. Left a lot of observance of Yiddishkeit. He considered himself not so frum. His father was very frum, very, very frum. And one day he was sick, he was ill, and his father, who I said was a very frum Jew, met one of the few Lubavitchers who had then settled in London. And he gave him, I think, £5 or maybe even £2 British sterling, a note, which was worth in those days, a pound was worth $4.50. $4.50 then. in the 1960s, 1970s. Could buy a lot with $4.50 in those days. So here was a pound. He gave him a pound, and he came back to the Lubavitch Foundation very excited. He'd been given such a large donation for this merit of his son who was sick. So I went to visit that son. He went to visit that son. There was Mr. Glick lying in bed, and he told me that he was so embarrassed to see a religious Jew, he buried his head in the pillow that he shouldn't see he wasn't wearing a yarmulke. And he came and he started learning Tanya with him. And from learning Tanya with him, he ignited his soul, and he became a very warm and active chassid with a great love for the Rebbe. And the Rebbe sent him on many shlichus, and before there were shluchim in all of the countries of Europe. In France, the Rebbe had Azimah, but that was it. He didn't have shluchim in Germany, didn't have in Austria, didn't have in Hungary, didn't have in the Balkans, didn't have in Spain or Portugal. All these places, the Rebbe sent him to all these places to do business in lampshades, and then to work with the community, not the other way around. He said, I don't want you to go like a rabbi. I want you to go like a businessman. So he had developed this very warm and exciting relationship with the Rebbe, and his wife was on the outside. So he was very interested to take her with him as soon as she would consent to go, and hopefully she would also become very connected with the Rebbe. And he took her, and they had yechidus, and he was so excited that his wife could join him in this. And they came out of the yechidus, and he turned to her name was Natalie. He says, well, Nat, how do you feel? She was a very delicate, quiet person. She said, well, I'll tell you the truth, Adi. That's what she called him. Can you believe? His name was Avram Yitzchok, but the European name that they gave him was Adolf. Yeah, Adolf. I had an uncle named Adolf who was a doctor. It used to be a normal name. Anyway, so she called him Adi. She said, I'll tell you, Adi, I feel cold. Oh, I feel cold. He was so disappointed. Why? Why do you feel cold? Said, I don't know. Maybe I'd like to speak to the Rebbe again. Oh, but you can't speak to the Rebbe again. There's so many people waiting. You get one chance. You're in from whatever you're in, and then that's it. The Rebbe has to see other people. You can't see everybody twice or three times. Can't. She said, she was very quiet, but she was very tough. She said, well, maybe you could ask Rabbi Groner. What do you think he could do? He was so embarrassed. He went up to Rabbi Groner. He said, Rabbi Groner, my wife says that she'd like to speak to the Rebbe a little bit more. Rabbi Groner's whole job was to keep people from doing that. That was his whole purpose. Said, I don't know. What? Could you ask? Okay, I'll ask the Rebbe. So he asked the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, send her in. Big surprise. Without her husband. So she went in alone, and the Rebbe said to her, what's the problem? She said, I'm sorry to trouble you, Rebbe, but I feel cold. So he said to her, and this is what she told me. He said to her, do you give tzedakah every day? She said, yes, we give a lot of tzedakah. A lot of people come to the door. They were, like I said, they'd become quite successful in business. And we give everybody, and we treat them very nicely. We talk with them. Don't just give them money and call them. Because I didn't ask you how much you give or how you give. Just want to know if you give. And what do you think about when you give tzedakah? She says, I think helping a person who's needy. Rebbe said, could you think when you give tzedakah that you're doing a mitzvah from Hashem? Could you do that? And so she said, yes, Rebbe, I think I could do that. He said, good. And he gave her a bracha, and she went out, and her husband was waiting nervously to speak with her. He said, no, how do you feel? She said, I feel warm. Rebbe had touched her. And that's a great talent that the Rebbe has and shows to everybody the ability to lift them up and find something that they can do for Hashem. And from mitzvah gereres mitzvah, from doing one thing for Hashem, it leads to the next. She told me it took about 2 weeks. Whenever she would give tzedakah, she would think to herself she's doing a mitzvah from Hashem, and it melted the ice around her heart. And she became filled with a great love of Hashem. So this is what we're learning about in this chapter, about a person who feels, understands it would be appropriate to serve Hashem with your heart and soul, but they don't feel anything in their heart. So the Rebbe says on page 234, we read this yesterday, that it would be fitting for his soul, for his nefesh, and for his ruach, which is another word for different level of the soul, to desire to be connected to Hashem and not to be limited by the limitations of the body. Like instead of a brain's feeling, I have chocolate pudding between my ears. They don't feel. So I understand it would be appropriate, but I'm not feeling anything. And he compared this to women who are like widows, that their husband is gone and they don't know where he is and they can't marry anybody else, and they're alive, but they're not really alive. So their thought, now we're like 3 lines down, page 234, cannot grasp Hashem. The only grasp the thought can have of Hashem is when you actually do a mitzvah, or when you're learning Torah itself. And then you say, well, how is it possible if I light a Shabbos candle that I can feel from Hashem? I'm doing a physical activity. So the Rebbe gave us the Alter Rebbe gave us a way to understand this with the parable, so to say, or the example, the metaphor of a person embracing the king. If you see the king, you're admitted to the private audience with the king, which is itself very hard to imagine, because you went to Buckingham Palace to see Queen Elizabeth. Today, you wouldn't be able to go over and give her a hug unless you're already intimate with her. But if you gave a person a hug, gave the king a hug, and let's say the king was wearing many royal garments, as would befit a king. Well, you couldn't say, well, I was only embracing the garments. I wasn't embracing. The main thing is because the king is inside the garments. Or the other way around, if you wearing your garments embrace the king, it doesn't matter if you're wearing one garment or you're wearing many garments, you are embracing the king. And what is this all about? This is about the Torah, which we embrace. By learning it and by doing mitzvahs, we are embracing Hashem, because you're doing a physical thing, you're eating matzah, you're lighting a candle of wax and string, but the king is within that. It's a physical garment, like any other garment, but it contains the king. The will and the wisdom of the king is within that activity, so that you really are embracing the king. So page 235 at the top of Ilazais, in that case, Yaseh lahen l'chabke b'chol leiv b'nefesh, it would be, understanding this, a person will understand, will agree that it would be appropriate when you do a mitzvah to do it with a lot of feeling, because you're embracing the king. You're not just giving tzedakah. And that's what the Rebbe meant. When you give tzedakah, can you think to yourself that you are doing a mitzvah from Hashem? You're not doing a good deed. Your mind approves of your good deeds, so you're not serving your own mind. That's not going to lead you anywhere. But you're embracing the king, because the king is in the good deed, and the king is Hashem. Tahainu kiniyim, and this applies to second paragraph. Call Taryag mitzvahs. All the 613 mitzvahs, b'maisa, in action, v'dibur, and machshava in thought, speech, and in thought, she has sagas, v'yadiyas Torah, which is understanding and knowing the Torah, k'niskalel, as we said before. Okay, we're going to stop here and continue from this point tomorrow.
We're gonna start with the name though. We gotta hear the name.
We'll let you know, Bezras Hashem.
All right, all right.
Baruch atah.
Mazel tov. So I could. Please,
Usually I have that.
Ariel, use your manners. But then say please.
What are you gonna do in our next meeting? I don't know. What are you doing for the summer? Going home to hang out with Matt?